Let's think carefully about this, because it's easy to dismiss, but it's actually one of the most profound truths about human connection, and particularly about the way men and women navigate the emotional landscape between them. When we talk about the power of emotional validation, what we're really talking about is the ability to see someone, to hear them, and to communicate without words sometimes, that their inner world actually matters. And I think that's something that men often don't fully appreciate, not because they're malicious, but because it simply doesn't occur to them that what seems small or irrational might actually be deeply significant to her. You see, for many women, feeling emotionally validated is a cornerstone of attraction, trust, and even love itself. It isn't about agreeing with everything she says or becoming some sort of sycophant. That's not validation, that's surrender, and it kills attraction faster than anything. What it means is standing firm in your own convictions while also showing her, through your presence, that you genuinely understand why she feels what she feels. It's about listening, not just waiting for your turn to speak. It's about noticing the moments when her frustration or sadness is really a test. Not a test in a manipulative sense, but a test in the sense of wanting to know. Are you capable of seeing me? Can you hold the space for who I truly am? When you get this wrong, you become either the cold, indifferent man who makes her feel alone, even when you're sitting beside her, or the overly compliant man who bends so far backwards that he loses his spine entirely. Neither approach works, but when you get it right, when you really hear her, you unlock something extraordinary. Suddenly, she feels safe. Not in the physical sense alone, but emotionally safe, which is even rarer. And when she feels safe in that way, her natural warmth, playfulness, and loyalty merge almost effortlessly. And here's the irony. Men often think that showing this kind of empathy makes them weak. But it doesn't. Quite the opposite. It requires immense strength to remain grounded in your own beliefs while opening yourself up to understand another person's pain, frustration, or even anger. It requires discipline to listen without rushing to solve, to sit in the discomfort of raw emotion without turning away. That's real courage, and it's that courage that women find magnetic. Now, why is this such a crucial weakness to understand? Because it's in those moments of vulnerability that her guard is down, and it's there that real intimacy is built. Too many men think strength alone is what keeps a woman close. And strength is vital, but it's sterile without compassion. What truly bonds her to you, what truly makes her see you as irreplaceable, is your ability to meet her emotionally while still being entirely yourself. So the next time you're faced with her tears, her worries, or even her anger, don't rush to dismiss it. Don't rush to fix it. Listen, reflect. Let her know genuinely that you see her, that her feelings matter, and that you're strong enough to hold both her pain and your own ground. Because in that moment, you're not just validating her, you're proving you're the kind of man she can truly trust with her heart. And in the end, that is what sets a great man apart from merely a good one. Let's delve into something deeper, something that's often whispered about but rarely spoken out loud, because it's uncomfortable and because it challenges both men and women to confront truths that feel, frankly, a little raw. And that is this secret fear many women carry, the fear of losing their value. And when I say value, I don't mean it in a shallow or dismissive sense. I mean the fear of no longer being wanted, no longer being chosen, no longer being enough in the eyes of the man they love, or the world around them. This isn't vanity. It's rooted in something far older and far more profound. Across history, a woman's social survival was often intertwined with being desirable, being seen as worthy of commitment and protection. And while society has changed dramatically, the echo of that truth still remains in the psychology of many women today. It manifests in small ways you might overlook. The anxiety when she compares herself to others, the worry when she feels ignored, the need for reassurance that she still matters to you. And if you, as a man, fail to recognize this undercurrent, you risk misunderstanding her fears as neediness or drama, when in fact they're rooted in something deeply human. The mistake many men make is either dismissing these fears entirely or trying to fix them through blind praise. Neither works. Blind praise rings hollow. It smells of desperation and tells her nothing about your authentic view. And dismissiveness, well, that cuts deeper than you might realize, because it confirms her worst fear, that her value is slipping away unnoticed. What actually works is presence combined with strength. It's the quiet confidence of a man who truly sees her worth. Not just when she's perfectly put together, not just when she's laughing, but also when she's vulnerable, anxious, or even afraid. But there's a paradox here, and it's crucial to grasp. If you place her on a pedestal, she may feel temporarily flattered, but soon she'll sense your validation comes from weakness. On the other hand, if you completely withdraw your appreciation, she'll feel invisible. The balance lies in being the man who can reassure her with honesty, telling her what genuinely draws you to her, while never allowing her fears to control you. This isn't about playing games. It's about standing in your own value so she feels safe standing in hers. A woman feels most alive and most secure when she knows she is wanted, not because you can't live without her, but because you choose her despite being fully capable on your own. That choice, freely given again and again, is what soothes her secret fear more powerfully than any compliment ever could. And when you embody this understanding, you don't just become her partner. You become the rare man who truly comprehends her deepest vulnerability. In the end, what keeps love alive isn't perfection, youth, or constant reassurance. It's the courage to keep choosing each other, especially when fear whispers that you could walk away. Because when a man sees her, truly sees her, even in the face of her own doubts, it speaks louder than any promise ever could. And that, gentlemen, is what makes you unforgettable. And here's something that often makes men shake their heads, something they can't quite make sense of at first: the need for emotional drama. Now, before you dismiss it as something shallow or manipulative, let's look deeper, because it's rooted in something far more complex and far more human than it first appears. See, for many women, emotional drama isn't about chaos for its own sake. It's a kind of emotional testing ground, a way to feel alive, to feel where the boundaries of the relationship really lie, and ultimately to see if you, as a man, are truly strong enough to hold steady when the emotional waters get rough. And this isn't some cruel game. It's often subconscious, an instinctive need to feel the depth and resilience of your bond. Now, if you misunderstand this need, you'll likely react in one of two ways, both equally damaging. You might meet her drama with your own, escalating arguments until the connection becomes nothing but conflict. Or you might run from it entirely, becoming cold and detached, leaving her alone in her emotional storm. And what happens then? Either you both burn the relationship to ashes, or it slowly freezes until there's nothing left. What many men fail to realize is that these moments of drama are, paradoxically, invitations. They're invitations to show calm strength, not by overpowering her emotions, but by refusing to be pulled under by them. And it's not indifference, it's presence. It's the ability to listen to what she's really saying beneath the raised voice or the tears. Often the words aren't what matter most. It's the unspoken question. Can you handle this part of me? Will you stay when I'm not at my best? Are you strong enough to see my chaos and still hold me close? And here's where your response shapes the entire dynamic. If you react with anger or fear, you confirm her worry that you can't handle her full self, that she has to shrink her emotions to keep the peace. But if you stay grounded, if you meet her emotional intensity with steady empathy and a firm but gentle presence, You show her something far more powerful, that you're not easily shaken, that your love isn't so fragile collapses under pressure. It's in these moments of drama that true intimacy can actually deepen. Because when she sees that you can hold your ground without crushing hers, you're not just calming the moment. You're proving your strength in a language deeper than words. And the irony is, once she feels that safety, the need for constant drama often dissolves. It no longer has to keep surfacing, because the question it asks, "Are you strong enough to stay?" has already been answered. So don't see these storms as proof that something's broken. See them as a chance to show who you really are. Because, in the end, it's not about avoiding conflict. It's about revealing your character through it. And when you do, you become the man who isn't just loved when things are easy, but respected when they're anything but. And that respect lasts far longer than any calm day ever could. And there's something else that far too many men overlook. Something subtle, often counterintuitive, but absolutely vital if you truly want to hold a woman's interest over time. The power of mystery and unpredictability. Now, when I say mystery, I don't mean playing childish games, disappearing for days, or being deliberately cryptic just to provoke anxiety. That isn't strength. It's insecurity wearing a mask. I'm talking about a deeper kind of unpredictability. One rooted in being a fully alive, fully engaged man who continues to grow, explore, and surprise, not just for her sake, but because that's who you are. See, many relationships don't die from conflict. They die from suffocating predictability. You meet, you connect, the spark ignites, and for a while everything feels electric. But over time, routine creeps in, and too often the man unconsciously hands over every scrap of mystery he once had. His world starts to revolve solely around her. Every plan, every moment, every ounce of emotional energy. And at first, she may enjoy the attention, but slowly, quietly, something inside her begins to pull away. Because while women deeply crave safety and certainty, they are also drawn to that edge of unpredictability that keeps love alive. An energy that whispers. There's still more to discover about this man. The paradox is that your predictability feels safe, but it can also feel dull. And dullness is the silent killer of desire. So what does it mean to remain a little mysterious? It means you don't abandon your own interests, your friends, your mission, or your curiosity about life just because you're in love. It means sometimes coming home with a new idea, a sudden plan for a weekend trip, a book that changes your perspective, or a goal that challenges you. It's about living in such a way that even she can't quite predict your every move. Not because you're hiding, but because you're still becoming. And this isn't just for her sake, it's for yours. Because the man who loses his mystery hasn't just lost her interest, he's lost part of himself. He's stopped exploring who he could become and settled for who he already is. But when you stay connected to your own unfolding story, you naturally radiate the very energy that drew her in from the start. It tells her, I love you deeply, but I'm also a man with his own journey. A man who can still surprise you, because I'm still surprising myself. Understand this, mystery isn't about distance, it's about depth. It's the difference between a shallow pool you can see through at a glance and a vast ocean that draws you back again and again, because you've only glimpsed a fraction of what lies beneath. And when you live like that, you don't need tricks or manipulation to keep her attention. Your life itself becomes the intrigue. Because, in the end, the most captivating man isn't the one who becomes predictable for love, but the one whose love remains anchored in a life rich enough to keep both of you endlessly curious. And that kind of man is never truly figured out, and never, ever forgotten. And now let's address something that, frankly, many men either ignore or outright deny because it doesn't fit into our tidy view of love as something purely private, purely intimate, the influence of social validation. It might feel uncomfortable to admit, but it's undeniably true. How the world sees you, how her friends see you, how her family sees you, and even how strangers might see you, carries a weight that shapes how she sees you too. Now, that isn't to say women can't think for themselves. Of course they can. But human beings are deeply social creatures, wired over thousands of years to care about our standing within the group. Because belonging meant survival. And for women in particular, there's often a heightened sensitivity to social cues, partly because throughout history, social bonds were vital protection against the moderation. It shows up in subtle ways in battle world, in subtle and worlds wasient, subtle ways. Think about it. Why does her attraction often intensify when others respect you, laugh at your jokes, or value your insights? Why does a woman feel more secure when she sees you move through the world with quiet confidence rather than needing to prove yourself? Because social validation doesn't replace personal connection, but it powerfully amplifies it. It reassures her that the man she's chosen isn't just strong in private, but recognized as competent, respected, and grounded by others. And this isn't vanity. It's about reassurance that her trust in you is well placed. Many men make the mistake of ignoring this or dismissing it as superficial. They might think, it doesn't matter what her friends think, or I don't need anyone's approval. But what they fail to see is that social validation isn't about chasing approval. It's about living in a way that naturally commands it. It's about being the man who quietly earns respect through character, competence, and presence, not just when she's watching, but even when she isn't. And let's be clear, social validation isn't loud bravado or endless bragging. It's subtle, often invisible. It's how you treat people in everyday moments, how you handle setbacks, how you carry yourself when no one owes you anything. It's the look in her friends' eyes when they realize, without being told, that you're the real deal. And yes, it matters, because it affirms what she already feels, that loving you isn't just her private choice, but something the world itself quietly acknowledges as wise. The paradox is that if you chase validation directly, you lose it. But if you focus on being a man of substance, someone grounded and steady, validation tends to follow naturally. It's the difference between needing the world's approval and simply living in a way that commands it effortlessly. And when you do, you offer her something priceless. The comfort of knowing she stands beside a man who isn't just hers in private, but whose worth shines publicly without trying too hard. Because in the end, a woman doesn't just want a man the world tolerates. She wants a man the world quietly respects. And that silent respect speaks louder than words ever could. And finally, there's a truth so often misunderstood by men who think they must choose between being the stoic rock or the endlessly gentle partner. Women aren't drawn to either extreme alone. What truly captivates them is the rare balance. A man who is undeniably strong, yet unmistakably compassionate. Strength alone, cold and unbending, can protect but rarely inspires deep trust. Compassion alone, soft and boundaryless, may comfort but often fails to spark lasting desire. It's the fusion that matters. A man who can stand his ground, hold firm to his principles, and yet still open his heart to understand her pain, her dreams, and her doubts. This isn't weakness, it's profound discipline. Because it takes real courage to look someone you love in the eye and remain unwaveringly honest, even when it risks conflict. And it takes equal courage to let down your guard, to sit with her sorrow or fear without rushing to fix it, simply offering presence. That balance of resolve and tenderness creates an emotional space where she feels both deeply cherished and deeply challenged. And the truth is, it's in that space that love doesn't merely survive, it grows. Because a woman doesn't just want a man who protects her from the world, she wants a man who can guide, inspire, and sometimes even protect her from her own doubts, all while holding her hand. In the end, it isn't the hardest man or the gentlest man she loves most. It's the one strong enough to be kind and kind enough to remain strong. And that, gentlemen, is the kind of man she can truly trust with her heart. And so, as we draw this all together, what does it really mean to understand these hidden weaknesses? Not to exploit them, but to truly see them. Because beneath every point we've explored, whether it's her need for emotional validation, the fear of losing value, the craving for a little drudgery, the pull of mystery, the influence of social validation, or her deep desire for a man who is both strong and compassionate, there lies one unshakable truth. Women are drawn to what makes them feel alive, seen, and secure, all at once. And it isn't about becoming someone you're not, or twisting yourself into a shape that wins shallow approval. It's about uncovering the man you could become if you dared to stand fully in your strength, Anji, your vulnerability. A man whose life is bigger than any single relationship, yet whose heart is open enough to love fiercely and fearlessly. These so-called weaknesses are not flaws. They're glimpses into the deeper emotional currents that shape real human connection. And if you, as a man, choose to recognize them, not with cynicism, but with maturity, you don't just hold a woman's attention. You earn her trust, her loyalty, and her deepest respect. In the end, it isn't about mastering women. It's about mastering yourself. And when you do, you don't just become the man she wants. You become the man you were meant to be all along.